Hi, my name is Jane, my husband Alex and I lived in a densely populated city. We were so tired of the hustle and bustle that we decided to move to the countryside, closer to nature. My husband found a nice house by the river with a small garden. We sold our apartment and moved to a country house. Our neighbors were mostly elderly people. The former owner of the house was also moving somewhere. Well, at least he told us so. Well, we did not argue and bought a house, as we had long dreamed of their own country house. Especially the house was very good, 4 rooms, kitchen, attic, which could be insulated and get one large room, basement, large, and in general we liked it very much. Living in the country was wonderful, especially for my husband and me, as we were writers and worked remotely from home. The beauty of nature around us was very inspiring. One afternoon my husband Alex went into town on business. I was sitting alone in the living room, writing a story, when suddenly something fell hard and crashed in the attic. I was a little frightened, but I gathered courage and decided to see what was there. That I opened the hatch to the attic and saw a shadow flashed in front of me. I froze with fear and instinctively called out, "Hey, who's there?" But no one answered me. I decided not to go into the attic, but to wait for my husband and close the hatch. When my husband arrived, I quickly told him about the story. To calm me, Alex took a flashlight and went to the attic. I waited downstairs and listening to every sound. Alex quickly came downstairs and said that nothing found, there is no one there. He tried to calm me down, and after dinner we both tried to put the incident out of our minds. The next day, or rather the next night, I slept for about 3 hours and Alex couldn't sleep, so he went out for some fresh air. When he went out on the veranda, a shadow ran in front of him towards the basement and he froze on the spot. Coming to his senses, he decided to look at the basement, and turning on the light, Alex went down into the deep and cluttered basement. As he headed towards the center, the light suddenly went out and the air was filled with whispers. Fear gripped him as he tried to find his way out. Taking a step back, he tripped over something and fell backwards, landing heavily on the floor. At that moment, someone or something ran their fingers over his body, sending goosebumps running down his spine. Dazed, he couldn't move or scream, completely mesmerized by the fear. Suddenly the lights came back on and someone shouted his name. It was me, Jane. Alex came out of his paralyzed state and quickly pulled off his clothes, looking around confused. He walked out of the basement, deciding not to say anything to me about what had just happened. In the morning, Alex decided to clean up the basement. Everything that was not needed, he took out into the street. These things were from the previous owners and these things were of no value to us. There were a lot of things, unnecessary furniture, newspapers, magazines, books, all sorts of things. But one thing interested me. It was a suitcase. There were newspaper clippings. I started reading in the newspapers. It was mentioned that children were missing. I couldn't understand who needed to collect this. I showed it to Alex. He looked at the newspapers and didn't understand either, and we decided to take it to the police. When we returned from the police station, we were depressed. All the happiness that we had experienced instantly disappeared. We did not know what to do next, and after much deliberation, we decided to conduct our own investigation. The first thing, we decided to interview the neighbors, and as if by order, on the doorstep stood our neighbor. She brought a cake to treat and get acquainted. We were glad that the neighbor herself came, sat her down in the living room. I brought tea, and we began to talk. After a short conversation, Alex asked about the former owner of the house. She said that the former owner of the house was an elderly man in his 60s. He was taciturn and did not communicate with anyone, often left the house and did not appear for weeks. No one knows what he did. Then we found out that the house had a new owner, who also did not live long, and put it up for sale, and then we bought it. After the neighbor left, we decided to search the whole house the next day to find answers to the questions about what was happening. In the evening we went to bed, but the night was terrible. The whole house was crackling. We heard screaming voices. We huddled together, not knowing what to do, and waited for the morning. By dawn everything was quiet, and we fell into a dead sleep, waking only at noon. With renewed vigor, we began our search. Starting in the attic, we came across 2 bags of children's things, which raised new questions and concerns. We continued the search, thoroughly examining all the rooms, but found nothing significant. The only thing left to explore was the basement. We went down there. The basement was dark, there were no windows, the light came only from the door and the light bulb that hung above us, and we began to search. When the door suddenly slammed shut and the light went out, we were numb with fear, not knowing what was going to happen next. Alex hugged me and told me he wouldn't leave me under any circumstances, and I was relieved when the door opened and someone shined a flashlight on us. It was a policeman. We came to our senses and hurried out of the damn basement. The policeman said that when he arrived at our house, the front door was open. He called out to us, but no one answered, and at that time he heard the door slam. He went to the sound and opened the door to the basement where we were. We were very excited that he had come to see us. Alex quickly told him everything he had found out and showed him the bags of items he had found. The policeman also boasted that he had not been sitting idly by. He had called the department that was investigating the case of the maniac who was kidnapping and killing children, and was told that the maniac had not been caught yet and that the case had reached a dead end. He told them about the suitcase of clippings. They quickly made inquiries, found out who the owner of the house was, and quickly apprehended him, but there was no evidence except the suitcase, and he didn't want to confess, so he came here to find some evidence. We explained to him that only the basement had not been examined and that there was something there, but we couldn't find it. Then the policeman said that there was an acquaintance of his sitting in his car who would help them find what they needed. He went out to his car and came back with a dog named Charlie. We went down to the basement. The dog started sniffing around. When it got to the far wall, it started scratching and barking, showing that there was something there. The policeman asked for tools to break the wall. Alex brought a sledgehammer. The policeman said he would make a bit of a mess here, but we didn't mind. The wall was brick. When the policeman hit the sledgehammer, after the first blow, the wall cracked. After the second, it fell apart. When we saw what was there, we were horrified. There were at least 3 remains of children. Time passed. Everything was over. The maniac was caught and for all his deeds, received his punishment. We lived as before, but the echoes of the past history still echoed to us. We even tried to sell the house, but our house became notorious, the house of a maniac, and no one bought it. So we lived, resigned to their fate.